Yeah, again, for 40 years, I've walked with gang members, so they've taught me everything of value. And it's from them that I've learned just from my own. I've never met an evil person ever. And for 40 years, I've worked with gang members. Maybe I might have. No, I've met deeply traumatized people, deeply wounded people, hugely mentally ill people, but I've never met an evil person ever. So if you say that somebody is unshakably good, as I do, and in Buddhists we'll talk about essential goodness and things like that. I always think that's kind of hedging our bets. I say that's why I say unshakably good. Now, knowing that goodness is everything. I had a homie the other day say to me, he goes, I think life is just letting the blindfold fall. And I said, that's pretty good. Well, what do you see? I asked him. What do you see when the blindfold falls? And he thinks for a second, he put his hand on his chest and he said, goodness. Exactly. So you can say that everybody is unshakably good, which I believe they are, but seeing it and allowing the blindfold to fall, or having us help each other have that moment of transformation and healing, that's everything. And so gang members don't walk into Homeboy Industries bad and they leave 18 months later good. They were always unshakably good. But because none of us are well until all of us are well, we need help walking home to wholeness. And it's the relationship that heals. And so the more that we can be engaged in relational wholeness with each other, then the more that we can, know that the answer to every question is compassion. And we can find ourselves in kinship with everybody. So sometimes we settle for forgiveness when we should hold out for mercy. A homeboy emailed me and he said, all this talk about forgiveness, he goes, I don't like forgiveness. He goes, there's too much back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I just want forth, he said. And then he said, fourth is mercy. And I said, that's brilliant. And that's true. So, yeah, love your enemies. I always think Jesus wants us to do them one better, which is don't have any enemies. Why would you have enemies? Why would there be this us and them? Us and them is always the opposite of truth, the opposite of how God sees. And that's the danger. The danger is oppositional. The opposite of hate is not love. The opposite of hate is health, because nobody healthy in the history of the world has ever hated. It's not bad people hate. No healthy person has ever been a racist. I don't believe that's ever happened.
When we trying to expose people to a different understanding of history or a different worldview, and they were raised with a particular worldview, that we have to do that with a lot of care and consciousness and mindfulness. That if we try to shove it down their throats and they don't trust that they have a place to land that's going to hold them, there's no way they're going to take that leap of faith. Because how can they? It's not emotionally safe. It's probably not spiritually safe. The only way that people can move, the only way that I could move from the stories with which I was raised to the reality in which I live now, which is very vocally challenging Zionism, the political Zionism. So there's a different Zionism, right? A theological, spiritual Zionism that is the story of our people seeking a safe place to live. I don't connect that to a particular location. The Torah tells us that the divine owns the earth. We do not. So I do not connect my safety to Israel or to California. I connect my safety to communities, to relationships, not to a piece of land, not to a place. But I do believe that Jews and all peoples, Palestinians, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, atheists, all peoples of all faiths, all races, all genders, deserve to know that they're safe in this world and that they have a safe place to call home and that they're not alone.
I'll share a really short story if we have time, but I'll make it really short. So I went to visit Israel and Palestine 6 years ago or 5 years ago, and we went to we were taken, besides the Israeli government meeting with them, they also took us to the organizers took us to West Bank, and we went to a development called Rabbi, which is a Palestinian development area of about 5,000 apartment units. You know, they had a music theater, they had cafes, restaurants, office business buildings, and so on. And it was a way for the Palestinians to create a community, a safe environment for themselves. And we were a bunch, about 22 Muslim leaders from America, taken to visit Israel and Palestine, occupied territories. And it was in a comfortable bus, but the road for us to take to this apartment, to this development, was just one lane of the 101 freeway to develop this whole area of development. So if you can imagine how challenging that might be. And we met with the developer, the financier. He's an American, Palestinian American from New Jersey. So he did well in America. He went back to develop this environment, this housing development in occupied territory. And he said to us, everything has been built in this really beautiful area. There's hiking trails. And then he said, but the apartments have been sold. And he said, but the Israelis would not turn the water tap on. They would not turn the water on. And I had to fly to all the different Israeli offices in order to beg them to turn the water on, because I would have lost all the investment, everything. And funny enough, after that meeting, we had a meeting with an Israeli government official, high ranking, and he was talking about, oh yeah, the Palestinians need to have their own economic development. They need to, develop their own community, blah, blah, blah. And he was just going off on that. And I interrupted him and I said, well, hang on a second. This is all great, but you wouldn't turn the tap on for this guy when he was investing and doing all that he could based on what you want them to do. Explain that. And of course he said, oh, it's a security issue, right? That's always like a standard response. So I know for a fact it has been very difficult. I know for a fact the abuses of Palestinians, because I've been following this for a long time. It's just incredible how the world has not been paying attention in detail until now. And I think October 7 has really woken up the world, not to just who Hamas is, but the subsequent 75 years of oppression.
Daryl Davis. Has anybody heard of Daryl Davis? So he is a jazz musician by trade. He is African American, and he has a TED Talk, and he's been on the I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, he's been on various interviews in the last couple of years. It has basically been his hobby to reach out to known bigots, particularly members of the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. You probably, if you haven't seen his TED Talk, it's brilliant. And he has literally converted perhaps a dozen former Ku Klux Klan members to be decent human beings, and they have literally surrendered their robes to him, and he has it as part of his collection, which he brings out to public addresses and lectures that he gives, and he shows these robes that have been given to him as gifts, indicating that they have given up their former lives. And he says that by befriending these people, and this is obviously very bold and very brave, because you can get yourself killed doing something like that. And he talks about his first few incidences, having met the grand dragon of the clan in that particular region, and he said, by sitting down and listening to this human being and treating him as a human being and saying, look, I want to hear, like, what do you believe and why do you believe that? That was able to form a friendship between the two of them, so that this guy basically says, all right, well, maybe I've been mistaught. Maybe all African Americans are not bad people. And so that kind of deep, compassionate listening worked in his case. Not everybody can do that. But that type of bravery in the face of bigotry, that type of willingness to listen to the proverbial other, I think is kind of where we need to start. We need to sit down with, I'm going to assume that there are probably no Trump supporters on this call here, but we need to listen to our more conservative friends, our Trumpist supporter friends, and hear what they have to say about why they support Trump, because there might be something in there that maybe one thing that we agree on, maybe the fact that we all breathe air. I don't know. It might have something to do with food freedoms or certain aspects of or big pharma or big agriculture. I see some of these every now and then when I talk with my more conservative friends. There's usually one thing that we agree on, and I capitalize on that. All right, if we can agree on that one thing, maybe we are not so far off from each other. Maybe you can listen to what I have to say about something else, whether it's religious tolerance. I don't know. But if we can focus on what we have that we have in common, maybe we can find more things we have in common, and we can start working on something together, some kind of project that we can agree upon, something that benefits humanity.